Hello, welcome to another episode of Awakening with Soulspirational. I'm Tish, and back with me is Rick.
Hi.
And again, behind the camera is Mr. Joel Foos. So, all right, I am going to be doing a series, or I plan to, called The Language of Love. So, I thought maybe we would, really, I've got Rick here, so I want to just keep him here for a little while, do another episode. And I want to just kind of start talking about the language of love, what this series is going to be about. And I realize that sometimes I'm really up in my head when I speak. So if you have any questions going through it, let me know. So the language of love is something that, and actually some of this is going to make sense to you because we've been friends for so long. I feel like it's been this culmination really over the course of my lifetime, just unbeknownst to me. And then last year, all right, so I was raised with Christian beliefs growing up, but we were not religious. So this past year, I really wanted to get into the Bible and read through it like a novel from the front to the back without jumping around, though I did do some jumping. And Rick is very well versed in the Bible, so I actually have gone to him quite a bit. But when I decided to read through the Bible, I wanted to do it the only way in which I could, which is through my own filter. Since I wasn't raised religious, and being a spiritualist, I was reading it, again, through my own filter. I really wanted to see what kind of information I could glean, helping me along with my spiritual journey. So of course we start with Genesis, and this really does have something to do with the language of love. And we've discussed Genesis from the metaphysical sense, the spiritual sense of, my interpretation is, how can I explain this? So I believe in God. I believe that we are all created from the same source. So I see it as though we all have this stream, this spirit of light that flows through us, that which is God, that is part of who we are. And I feel as though, we have this beautiful soul that is birthed. And actually, so getting into the New Testament, reading some of the things like mystic Christianity as well, kind of see Jesus as being like that initial soul being born, without any karma from any past lifetimes. So anyway, so I feel like the soul is the energy in which it records our actions, the things that we say, the things that we do. So, and I personally believe in past lifetimes. So even with our past lives, our actions are being recorded within the energy of the soul. So with that, by having the belief that we are more than just our flesh and blood, reading through the Old Testament, it felt really heavy to me. But I felt, I had to keep putting myself back, some 2,000 years and think about where mankind was then. And how we needed to be awakened, whatever the right terminology would be there.
That's what most people understand.
And if something needed to be done very harsh, because I do not fall into the fear of God. To me, it's the love of God. But the Old Testament was very much for me this fear of God, and it was very difficult for me to read through. But again, maybe it was shaking people up. For the seekers, the sages, the philosophers, to let people know you are more than just flesh and blood. That when you are doing these acts against yourself or mankind, that's being recorded. At least that's my interpretation.
Makes sense to me.
Through my filter.
Yeah.
So this all kind of culminated for me close to the end of 2018, where, and I've already been feeling this pull between the human self and the spiritual self, and how we have both things simultaneously going on. And as we talked a couple episodes ago about balance, finding the balance between the two, because I think we can use spirituality as a form of escapism and stay in the spiritual world. We can deny that part and stay deep within the physical world. And it's not to say one is better than the other. However, to me, it's about finding the balance between the two. So it got me thinking about the way that we speak to one another, the way that we treat one another. And when I think about words that are unkind, that are hurtful to self or to others, I ask myself, would those be words that God would use? Would they be sanctioned by God? Then I think, well, no. So then, and I'm not saying I'm right or that I'm wrong here. I'm just sharing with you guys what's kind of been culminating for me. So then I see that as being this human speak. And, so when we're born into the world as an infant, I do not believe that an infant is born into this world saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable.
No, not at all.
No.
I think that's something, as you grow older, people try to put that on you.
The language, the human language.
Yes.
The human language, regardless of what actual language you speak, whether it's French or English or Greek or whatever, the human language of the way that we treat one another. And this isn't to disparage our parents or anybody else, because we learn whatever languages that we were taught, and then we teach the same language to our children, the people around us. And then as we're growing, we have different teachers or mentors or maybe neighbors or other relatives. We may occasionally find that people are speaking to us in a different language, even though it's still, in our case, English. Mm-hmm. But it feels different than what we were learning at home. Have you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've come to find that we're not divided as people at all. We're all the same. I think those things is what people just put on each other. It's like, to make us above or below or different than the other one. And that's just not true at all. In my opinion, because I've come to know this to be true, I don't look at people for their color, or I look at them for character content and how they generally treat people. I couldn't care if you're green,
And that's beautiful, because it's like the namaste. When you see me do that at the end of my episodes, I'm not doing it to be cliche or, everybody uses namaste. I truly feel the energy of that. Even if we just put it into a very small, the divine light within me honors the divine light within you. Mm-hmm. I mean that. And I think the more that we can see each other for the beautiful souls or the spirits that we are, mm-hmm. as opposed to whatever we look like on the outside, then we're speaking the language of love. Mm-hmm. When we come from different backgrounds. Well, just generally speaking, people have different backgrounds.
Sure.
And I think that if somebody is raised in a home that is loving and nurturing and forgiving, that's awesome.
You're a little bit ahead of the game.
Yeah, and for those of us that were raised in dysfunctional families, mm-hmm. I think it's easier for us to self-loathe, It's easier for us to not feel worthy or deserving of the good things that life has. And then this is where I really want to bring people's conscious awareness to just start asking yourself, if you find yourself with a negative thought about yourself or about others, stop and think, is this of God? So is this my spiritual side speaking, or is this my human conditioning that's speaking? Because the beauty is, if you were to, put on a piece of paper, human and spiritual, you can start to really break down and delineate the language that I was taught, the language that was part of my vocabulary when I came into this earth, because it was already placed within us in the spirit and in the soul. So we come into this world already with this beautiful spiritual language if we choose to speak it, if we choose to use it. Mm-hmm. So again, being consciously aware, because if my human words, if it's something that is unhealthy or harmful, whatever it may be, I can catch myself and know that I'm speaking from my human side. And again, it's all about balance. So we're going to speak both languages because we are both. Mm-hmm. And this isn't about beating ourselves up that, oh my gosh, I keep speaking negatively, and so I'm a horrible human being. No, because then you're just compounding that.
Yeah.
It's about having the conscious awareness so we can learn to maybe adjust the way that we're speaking, or maybe, the throat is the truth center. To maybe strengthen, if we've been somebody who's kept the words in, afraid to speak, maybe we can learn how to, and you know this by doing Reiki, fortifying the walls of the throat so we can feel stronger, even in the solar plexus, to speak our truth.
Yeah.
And we can say things, we can temper them through the throat and through the heart before we speak them, in a way that is more loving, to get our point across without being so, maybe so hateful or so bitter in the words that we choose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people speak harsh words out of fear. And seems like, some part of the spiritual side is based on love, the other is based on fear. And
so does fear feel like of God?
No, fear is not of God. God is love, total love.
And that's my point. If we're speaking of fear, then it's probably a human language that brought us to a point of fear.
Yeah.
And to me, so the spirit, the soul, has this built-in vocabulary, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't learned. It was dropped in.
It was taught.
Well, I see that the spiritual language was given. But I see the human language is being taught.
Yes.
And if we've learned something, we can unlearn it, or we can choose to overwrite it through different language.
But don't you just feel much better inside when you're not using fear or anger or hate? Just to be a loving person and to give that. I mean, I never felt good, not 1 minute, of anybody coming at me in a bad way. But it's always the people that come at me in a loving way that just makes me shine, just makes me vibrate. It's just, I don't know, I just don't, at this point in my life, I hope I never go back to what that was, whatever that was. I mean, it's just I don't know, we used the word awakening a while ago. I mean, once you're awakened to this, just things in your life change. They just do. And you just see the beauty of life and how it can be beautiful. It don't have to be fearful. It don't have to be from a space of lack. It's all abundance, every bit of it. So,
It feels so good because, I've been there where I was so miserable. I had so much weight carrying around with me. Hurt people hurt people. Hurt, and sometimes it's hard, I think, to stop and recognize that, because then now somebody just said something that was hurtful to me. So how am I going to process that? Am I going to take that personally? Am I going to, retaliate, jump back on that? We get to decide in the moment, but I think if we take the time to recognize that hurt people, and if I'm not hurt in the moment, then maybe I can be more compassionate towards the person that's hurt. Thereby, I am speaking the language of love.
Yes.
Because I'm working through the spirit, that language that was already part of me before I came into this world. And I think most of us, even if we did have those dysfunctional homes, even if we haven't been consciously aware, what I found as I was opening up to this is there are a lot of times, unbeknownst to me, I was speaking the language of love. Through that God space within me, just not putting it, I'm trying to articulate it. I want to put it into some kind of a series for people.
Well, the way I look at it is when you're brought into the world, you have the spiritual thinking, whatever. And to me personally, every time I hear something negative or hurtful or whatever, it affects me right here and right here. So it's just, Tish is right, you can unteach yourself this stuff, or you can go around people that are more positive and can help you do that. Because I'll tell you what, if people would just take the time to do that, what a world we would have. I mean, it wouldn't be euphoric. I mean, wherever there's good, there's bad. I mean, you will have that, but it's just like you don't have to play into it. You don't have to be a part of it. And that's what's really important about the language of love in that respect, I think.
And that brought me over to the ego too, that
yeah.
whereas the ego may rise up to protect us from something. When we are standing strong through love, the times that I have gone into situations where I knew there may be some form of turmoil or something unpleasant that could be going on there, I got myself in a state of love, and I do that for me, I think about my grandbabies. I close my eyes, I think about them, they make my heart spontaneously smile. I can just immediately get into that state of love. And then I just feel that. I send it throughout my entire body. I anchor at my heart, send it up in my head, down my arms, down my legs, and I anchor myself in that place of love. And it is so hard to knock me over because, I'm in love. I'm just in love with the moment of where I am, and I'm not affected by other people's moods or their attitudes if I don't get into that state. You know what I mean?
Well, it comes to a point in your life too, you understand it. Even though they're coming at you in that way, it's up to you to change that. It's your life, it's your journey. I don't mean to sound crass about it or like just throw these people out of your life. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can choose to go through a space of love, and then I always react positively when somebody's nice to me. I don't hit them over the head with something because they were nice to me.
Right.
I mean, that's just not
natural. Well, you don't hit them over the head even when they do something.
No, but
right,
I'm just saying it's just a natural reaction when somebody smiles at you. You smile back. That's part of, I think, the language of love too. Yeah. And it's cheap, friends. It's free.
That's right.
You don't have to spend any money doing it. You just do it, and the rewards are instantaneous. When somebody pays you a compliment at the store, and then it, we kind of smile, the eyes get a little bit, and that's just it too. That, most of us have had the experience that we've met somebody, we can just see that sparkle in their eyes, or somebody, we had a conversation, they walked away, and it's like, wow, that person was just glowing. Because we're seeing that beautiful divine spirit that is flowing through them. It is emanating, just shining through their being. And we got to witness that. And by their light shining, it's so hard not to be touched by the beauty of that divine light. Again, when somebody smiles and you smile back, So, and recognizing that. Yeah. And being in that state. And again, I don't want to just sound like, I'm just all about love and I'm always in a high vibration of love. No, I'm a human being too. That's right. So I have my down moments and sure. But and here's the other thing too that I want to do an episode on is the different people in our lives. I think most of us, or a lot of us, me, I'll speak for me, when we meet somebody new, oftentimes it's easier to be nice to them than maybe it is our own spouse. And I was thinking about that. And is that, sometimes, I've heard the phrase, the person is so fake. Just wait till you get to know them. Well, no, it could be that the person is really nice, and so they're being nice to the person that they meet. But at home, if we've had, years of time with somebody that we have spent so much time speaking the human language instead of the language of love with them, I kind of feel like, once we cross that imaginary line, that it becomes almost like a slippery slope. It's easier to speak in the human language as opposed to the language of love. Does that make sense? Oh, yeah, sure does. So if we get used to saying negative things to one another, well, then it's just easy to do that then. It's easier, you know what I mean? As opposed to staying in that higher vibration of love. Does that make sense about how we cross the line? And that's something that I really want to work with, because I can speak more of the human language even with my kids, because I birthed them, I raised them, so they've seen like the, morning. This is my morning hairdo, is what I'm doing here. Waking up in the morning and looking Mine's kind of like straight up,
kind of crazy. All the different hairstyles, and so they've seen me in like, crazy mom look mode, and they've seen me in my lowest points, my highest points. So they've got to see those lower human aspects of me. So, it's to me, I don't know, it's almost like it's kind of easier with people that we've known for a long period that have seen the deeper, more primal areas of our humanness. And again, for some reason, that takes me right back to the Old Testament and how we can just be so primal.
Yeah. Well, even though they were, I won't get too philosophical here, but even though they were modern men as far as the evolution of man, they were still very primitive in their thinking back then. Today, I mean, you kind of touched on a point earlier. When you first meet somebody, when I first meet somebody, I'm thinking, gosh, I hope they're kind to me. I'm not thinking I want them to be mean. I mean, you just naturally respond to kindness, to a smile. And then it's very easy to get to know that person then. But back then, it's just like it was all, I think people were still trying to figure out things as far as how to treat each other. And, it was more like a tribal type of thought process too. But, today it's just not that way. Today people are so much more open, or could be, to kindness. I mean, like I said, I just want somebody to be nice right off the bat. Then that just drops the whole thing. It's just like now I can relax, I can be me.
And it reminds me of the terminology of the warm.
Yeah.
So, you meet somebody and they're smiling, they're open, and boy, what a warm person. And then you meet somebody who's the opposite. And don't get me wrong here, there's no right or wrong here. There's no one is better. Sometimes we need to be in our human forms for protection. I think about the root chakra, the fight or flight. We are both. Therefore, to me, it's about honoring both aspects of who we are. It's just if we're looking at the polarity of spiritual and humanness, where's the center point? So if I'm looking at the center point, and if I feel like maybe I'm, the whole escapism thing I was talking about, and I've been so much up in my own consciousness over here, then I may be not treating my body as kindly over here. But if I'm so caught up in my day-to-day humdrum human life and not giving myself time for meditation or mindfulness or whatever it may be, then I may be so focused here that I'm missing out on all this other stuff. So to me, again, it's about just finding the balance, that center point. And it's not that we always have to be at that center point, but just these little nudges. Wow, I've really been so focused on my human life that I haven't been over here so often, or vice versa. It's conscious awareness. Yeah. Conscious awareness.
And not only that, it's just, as human beings, we're constantly evolving. And we're going to constantly evolve. And as far as learning how to be more kind to one another and loving, I mean, we've got enough of the other stuff. We need to learn how to be more kind and loving to each other. And, it may take a while. It might not happen in my lifetime, but it's gonna happen. I mean...
a visual that just brought to mind as you were speaking that, and this is what I love. I tell you, just getting out with other spiritual people, every experience is an experience. And we learned something. Like I recently told somebody, maybe you come in and you don't learn something from class, although I like to think everybody learns something from class. But there could be a particular person that was in that class setting that they really needed to hear something from. And as you just said what you said, I kind of felt like the yuck can clog the pathway to the spiritual side. So again, if I'm, as I was raised in a dysfunctional family, yelling, screaming, name calling, it's clogging up that energy flow. So it's going through and removing the debris, so to speak, so we can feel comfortable to smile at a stranger, to be able to tell people here, I tell people I love you. It's because I do. And it's such a wonderful place to be.
Yeah, it is, and it's good to be on the receiving side of that too. We will evolve. We're in that age where more people are awakening, more people are becoming more loving to one another, even though you don't hear it on the 6 o'clock news. But that's just not life in general. That's just what they're putting in front of you. If you get around enough people, and you can just feel the vibration. It's getting better.
And that's just it too. I think about the tree of knowledge, the tree of conscience, depending on which version you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the heavenly state, heavenly realm is bliss, how do we learn good from evil? Even though I don't like the term evil, but right from wrong, good from evil. Well, we have this human experience, and we turn on the news and we can get examples. But even for ourselves, the times that we do something we perceive that's being wrong, we said something that was unpleasant to self or to others, if we recognize that, then we can learn compassion for ourselves. And when somebody else says something and then they apologize, we can learn compassion for them. And that is the language of love. Getting back over to that.
And that's part of the spiritual side too, is because when you can be around people that make you feel good, and you can make them feel good, I mean, it's just nothing but good going on there.
That's right, a whole lot of love.
A whole lot of love.
It's a beautiful thing.
I mean, it's very, the reason it's so hard is because it's right here. That's what it is.
It's right here.
Yeah, but I'm just saying also, it's just like a lot of people are searching for answers. Sometimes it's right in front of you. It's right in front of your face. And when you go within, you find out exactly where it is.
That beautiful space of divine, true, pure, unconditional love.
Yep.
So
that's where it is.
With that, we are out of time. So I just thank you for listening to Rick and I go on. I do plan on creating a series, kind of breaking this down, getting a little more information specific. Anyway, thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joel Foose. Thank you to all of you who took the time to watch the episode. I really, truly appreciate it. I appreciate you. If you have any questions, you can reach me at my website, www.soulspirational.com. My email is info@soulspirational.com. So until next time, thank you, be well, and namaste.